I think the mystic path and the role of the mystics is to help people remember that there is much more beyond what the eye can see, and there's much more beyond just the rational level of the world. There's other levels and dimensions that all of our traditions point to on the mystical level. And specifically, the role of the mystics is to awaken people to the inner dimension of connectedness to the higher source, or the ocean of oneness, if you will, that is at the inner core of every tradition. And the problem is that religions, and especially in the Middle East, but it's in every part of the world, have gotten so caught up in the outer form and the ritual and the external practices that they forgot that in the Middle Ages and in centuries earlier, that the mystics formed a lot of these rituals so that they could be guideposts to help people do practices that would awaken their sense of oneness and awaken their sense of God consciousness in every small little action. And this is why in the Jewish tradition there's so many practices, as well as the Islamic tradition and Sikhism and every faith tradition. There's so many practices, the little things that we do in the tradition are meant to awaken us to a sense of consciousness with every action that we do, that we can awaken to the awareness of God. But the problem is that over the centuries that the practices themselves became concretized and became a structure, and we became to worship the form and the structure as if that was the goal itself. And we forgot over the centuries what was the greater goal, was to awaken to a sense of unity, and that these little practices that our traditions have now become the goal in and of itself, and not remembering the oneness. So the role of the mystic in our day and age is to wake people up and to shake each of the different faith communities, and people who are not necessarily attached to a religion, but to help people awaken to the oneness and the great, let's say, sea of consciousness from which all of reality emerges. And I think especially also now the role of the mystics in this part of the world and elsewhere is also to meet the mystics of other traditions and to show how easy it is for a mystical Jewish rabbi and a Sufi sheikh and a Christian priest and a Druze and a Baha'i and a Sikh and a Buddhist and even a Wiccan, or the mystics of every tradition, they actually can come together, and if they can find their commonality as people who are deeply religious and also deeply mystical, they can help be an example for everyone else who maybe isn't so aware of the commonalities. So I think a mystic goes within to their own practice and to their own place inside themselves to awaken the still small voice of oneness that's within themselves, and then naturally will seek to find other mystics from other traditions, and by doing so will help awaken everyone else who's sort of caught up in either materialism or in tribalism or fear of global catastrophe.